James Franco was once the smartest guy in Hollywood. Yale, NYU, Columbia, PhD programs, Sundance darlings, Oscar nominations, and a public image that screamed woke male ally. He wore a Time's Up pin to the 2018 Golden Globes, smiled next to feminist icons, and gave interviews about being accountable and respectful to women in the industry.
I don't want to, shut them down in any way. It's I think, a good thing, and I support it.
Days later, 5 women, including students from his now defunct acting school, accused him of misconduct. They alleged coercive audition setups, on-set nudity pressure, and boundary-pushing behavior that clashed violently with his public feminist branding.
It was a lot of nudity scenes that I felt were not artistically justified and were.
Sarah Tither Kaplan, one of the accusers, said seeing him wear that Time's Up pin was like a slap in the face. Franco initially denied wrongdoing, then quietly paid out a $2.2 million settlement in 2021. His longtime friend Seth Rogen publicly distanced himself. His agent dropped him, projects evaporated. The guy who was supposed to be the next James Dean with a PhD was now unhireable. Franco later admitted on a podcast that he had addiction and that his teaching methods had blurred boundaries.
Look, I'll admit, I did sleep with students. I didn't sleep with anybody.
He tried pivoting to European indies. It didn't stick. His comeback attempts have been met with silence. Franco didn't just fall. He buried himself under the exact movement he pretended to champion. Armie Hammer had it all: looks, lineage, and liberal credentials. After The Social Network and Call Me By Your Name, he was hailed as the future of Hollywood, a handsome, progressive male lead who chose thoughtful roles and spoke the right language. In 2017, he made headlines by calling out Hollywood's hypocrisy over Casey Affleck. In an interview with The Hollywood Reporter, he criticized the industry for embracing Affleck, who would settle harassment lawsuits, while exiling Nate Parker, a black filmmaker whose case had been acquitted.
Hammer says, quote, Nate had the stuff in his past which is heinous and tough to get beyond. But
the implication was clear: racial double standards. And Armie was the woke white guy brave enough to say it. But 4 years later, that righteous image imploded. Leaked DMs exposed disturbing fantasies involving control, and cannibalism. Multiple women accused him of emotional abuse, branding, and coercion. One alleged he carved his initial into her skin.
Armie Hammer violently me for over 4 hours in Los Angeles.
Hammer denied any non-consensual behavior, but the PR fallout was nuclear. His agency dropped him. He was fired from every major project, including Shotgun Wedding and The Offer. By 2022, he was reportedly selling timeshares at a Cayman Islands resort, describing the collapse as a career death. The man who once lectured Hollywood on justice became its most radioactive figure. For a guy who tried to cancel the system, it ended up canceling him harder. Justin Baldoni built an entire career out of telling men to be better. After starring in Jane the Virgin, he pivoted to activism, launching a podcast, a book, and a web series, all branded around the same mantra: man enough. He gave TED Talks about redefining masculinity, preached vulnerability over bravado, and positioned himself as the model feminist in Hollywood.
Are you brave enough to be vulnerable? To reach out to another man when you need help?
Studios and progressives loved it. He directed tearjerkers like 5 Feet Apart and was seen as the anti-toxic leading man. But in 2024, the persona cracked. Blake Lively, his co-star in It Ends With Us, sued him for fostering a hostile work environment. She alleged that Baldoni barged into her trailer while she was undressed, improvised intimate scenes without consent, and overshared his pornography addiction during filming.
Blake Lively has filed a legal complaint against It Ends With Us co-star Justin Baldoni.
His team claimed she was lying to sabotage the film.
You lying? Yeah.
She countersued. It got ugly. Then came leaked audio of Lively confronting Baldoni about his behavior, clips that ran like wildfire on YouTube and cable news. The man who lectured America about respecting women was suddenly accused of violating every boundary he once pretended to defend. The story blew up across political lines. Conservatives mocked him as another male feminist exposed, while progressives quietly backed away. His production company stopped posting. Amazon reportedly iced a second directorial deal. Once Hollywood's go-to woke prince, Baldoni became a liability, and in typical fashion, he tried to outwoke the scandal, suing Lively for $400 million. The guy who said real men own their mistakes chose litigation instead.
Actor-director Justin Baldoni is now suing his former co-star Blake Lively and her husband Ryan Reynolds.
Ezra Miller was supposed to be the future. As the first non-binary lead in a major superhero franchise, they weren't just the Flash. They were Hollywood's progressive poster child. Miller's red carpet appearances in gender-fluid couture made headlines, and their activism was loud and defiant. In 2022, they posted a video aimed at the Ku Klux Klan, telling members to kill yourselves or we'll do it for you.
Look, if y'all want to die, I suggest just killing yourselves with your own gun.
It was peak anti-hate performance art, and the press applauded. But behind the PR veneer was a disaster unfolding in real time. Over the span of 3 years, Miller racked up arrests for assault in Hawaii, faced accusations of grooming an indigenous activist, was caught on video choking a fan in Iceland.
Learn it? Did you want to fight? Is that the deal? Whoa, bro.
And reportedly ran a weapons-filled compound in Vermont stocked with children and cannabis. Warner Brothers tried to spin it, issuing damage control statements while quietly shelving future appearances. When The Flash finally hit theaters in 2023, it bombed hard. The $200 million blockbuster was branded DOA, Dead on Arrival, with critics and fans refusing to show up. Blame was placed squarely on Miller's off-screen meltdowns. Issa Rae openly slammed the industry's double standards, saying Miller was protected because they were the right kind of minority. Miller later issued a vague apology citing mental health and disappeared from press. Warner Brothers didn't recast, but also didn't rehire. The identity that made Miller bulletproof also made them untouchable. They didn't just fumble their career, they hit self-destruct at full speed. Johnathon Majors had Hollywood in a headlock. After standout turns in Lovecraft Country, The Harder They Fall, and Creed 3, he became Marvel's Phase 5 centerpiece, playing Kang the Conqueror across multiple upcoming Avengers films. He graced ebony covers and pink coats, redefined black masculinity on talk shows.
The film is a great examination of it. You know, we're showing it from all sides.
And launched the Sidney Poitier Initiative to support underrepresented filmmakers. He wasn't just rising, he was curated for greatness. But in March 23, everything unraveled. Majors was arrested for allegedly assaulting his girlfriend after a domestic dispute in a New York taxi. Police reported minor injuries. His lawyer released texts suggesting she took the blame, then she testified. In December 2023, a jury found him guilty of misdemeanor assault and harassment.
Because I liked it, and I loved it.
Hollywood moved fast. Marvel cut him from the Kang role. Magazine Dreams, once a Sundance darling, was pulled from release. The U.S. Army pulled its $117 million ad campaign. His PR firm and talent agency walked away. His reputation collapsed, not just because of the conviction, but because it clashed so violently with his carefully curated image. Journalist Jemele Hill tweeted, "This isn't just a fall from grace, it's a betrayal of what he claimed to stand for." Rolling Stone published a follow-up revealing past complaints from colleagues who described him as controlling and emotionally abusive. Majors, once praised for embodying vulnerability and progressivism, now sits on the industry blacklist.
Of the culture, we have the vulnerability of the culture, we have the complexity of the culture, we have the
Marvel called it a creative reset. The public called it accountability. Either way, the dynasty ended before it began. Michale Cimino was handed a golden ticket, a starring role as Victor Salazar in Hulu's Love, Victor, a coming-of-age spin-off of the progressive teen hit Love, Simon. The show was praised for centering a queer Latino lead, and Cimino, a straight actor, leaned into the ally role hard.
Hey, is everything okay?
He spoke about dismantling toxic masculinity, championed LGBTQ+ visibility, and did interviews about how honored he was to tell Victor's story. But his performance triggered backlash from both sides of the culture war. Far-right trolls spammed his Instagram with slurs and death threats. Meanwhile, progressive voices accused the production of queer erasure for casting a straight actor. Cimino told Attitude magazine, "I got homophobic messages, some even from people within the LGBTQ+ community. I expected it, but it still sucked."
Really? What's the craziest part is, it's like sometimes it's from people I know.
On Twitter, activist and filmmaker Leo Herrera wrote, "It's 2020 and studios are still casting straight men as gay leads. Tired." Others pushed back, defending Cimino's performance. But the online discourse had already tainted the show's press cycle. Even Variety questioned the optics, calling it a well-intentioned move that stirred its own controversy. Cimino handled the heat with grace, but the damage lingered. Despite love, his post-show career has been oddly quiet. A few indie films, some voice work, nothing on the same scale. Cimino tried to play it right. He said the right things, but in the era of identity policing, allyship wasn't enough. He became the scapegoat in a debate that had nothing to do with his acting, and everything to do with who he wasn't. Ben Platt was the poster boy for Broadway's woke generation, openly gay, outspoken on mental health, gender identity, and LGBT rights. He won a Tony for Dear Evan Hansen, a musical that turned social anxiety, suicide, and identity politics into a standing ovation. When Universal announced a film adaptation in 2021, Platt reprised the role, at 27, to play a 17-year-old high school student. His father, Mark Platt, was the film's producer. Twitter exploded, not just over the bad wig, but over what critics labeled woke hypocrisy. Variety ran a headline, "Ben Platt and the Problem with Self-Casting." Film critic Zoe Rose Bryant tweeted, "Hollywood preaches inclusion. Unless daddy's producing, then it's back to privilege."
No, God!
Even progressives turned on him. The film, marketed as a feel-good story about marginalized kids, became ground zero for the Nepo baby wars. LGBTQ+ activists criticized the weaponization of queerness as a shield against critique. One viral TikTok called it liberal privilege disguised as representation. Despite defending himself on Twitter, Platt deleted his account. The film bombed. Overnight, his public image flipped from progressive trailblazer to tone-deaf elitist. He retreated to Broadway.
Sort of a very foundational level, it's a lot about asserting our rights and our human.
The irony? Platt did everything woke culture celebrates. Vulnerability, identity, advocacy. But when the backlash hit, none of it mattered. The same ideology that elevated him tore him down for playing it too safe, too familiar, and too entitled. Noah Centineo was supposed to be Gen Z's next heartthrob/activist. After To All the Boys I've Loved Before turned him into Netflix's soft boy in chief, he exploded in popularity, charming, funny, and non-threatening in the exact way the internet adores. But when the teen rom-com era dried up, Centineo tried to rebrand as a socially conscious, deep thinker. In 2020, he launched a nonprofit with a confusing mission to increase happiness, later revealed to be a vague charity platform called Favored Nations.
The vision and the goal and the aspiration for Favored Nations is to help people discover new ways to help people.
He posted shirtless photos with captions about racial equity and quantum energy. People were confused. One viral tweet read, "Noah Centineo talks like he just discovered adjectives." Even his fan base started mocking his interviews, where he made statements like, "Art is the expression of humanity's understanding of itself." GQ dubbed him the internet's philosopher king, but not kindly. Meanwhile, his acting choices got weirder. He bulked up for Black Adam as the Justice Society's Atom Smasher, hoping to go full superhero.
It was great though. I had a lot of fun. I like putting on weight, right? And I've always liked working out.
Instead, the movie flopped, and his screen time was barely above glorified cameo. Then came The Recruit on Netflix, a CIA action comedy that didn't move the needle. Critics called it forgettable, and Centineo's brooding monotone was mocked as self-parody. In the end, the woke rebrand flopped harder than the rom-com glow-up. His activism felt aimless, his interviews felt performative, and his projects vanished into the algorithm. He tried to be the voice of his generation, but turned into its background noise. Time's up. Hollywood never forgets, only replaces you with someone safer, cheaper, and quieter. Subscribe for more careers buried in plain sight.